Hey guys, how's it going? davidinark here. Today I'm going to show off a new toy that I got. This is the Trios II. It is a hardware selector for old school IDE hard drives. Comes with the control panel. It comes with a selection of IDE cables. It comes with this power converter, which splits out to various hard drive connectors. And then it also has this AT extender that connects to the main system board itself. We'll learn more about that in just a second. The main board itself has a connector for the cable from the control panel, plus all the connectors for the IDE drives along with power. So in order to get this going, we have to first, you connect that extender cable that I talked about directly into the motherboard itself where your power supply would normally go, because it has some of its own cabling with it. And then you plug the AT header from your power supply into the top of that. So we've got this card here, and as you can see, the little pigtail comes from their adapter and plugs into the power in, and then there you go, you can see that there. And then it also has power out that will go to a splitter for the other IDE devices. You see it's a PCI card, but really that's just to hold it in place. And then there are the connectors for the various hard drives, or whatever other IDE devices you want to hook up. That is the power connector that will connect into the card for the splitter. That's power out. As you can see here, I've got two IDE CD drives with the IDE connectors going to them. And so for these, I'm not going to put those on the control panel because I don't need those to I don't need to select those. Those will always be available. I have the two hard drives that came out of this system. This is my dad's old computer. You may have seen it in the other video that I did where I talk about his computer. For these, though, you'll see that one has jumper on it, the other doesn't. So the top one here is master, the bottom one is slave. And so we will connect those two into the selector so that when we select that particular section, it will actually operate these two drives. One is a 120 gig hard drive, the other is an 80 gig hard drive. Those are the drives that my dad had in that computer back when it was his all those years ago. And then this is a 200 gig hard drive that we have currently set for master because it is going to exist on a separate selector channel all by itself. So the CD drives will exist on a completely separate cable. You can see the cables going down into the motherboard here. So what we're going to do, that's the floppy cable there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the IDE drives that are already plugged into the motherboard. So it's been a while since they've been removed. They're a little tough. The blue one is the primary IDE controller connector, and then the other one is the secondary. I'm going to connect the CD drives to the secondary, and then on the primary, it will go with a cable. One of these cables here will run from the primary back to that selector card. Now, one of the issues that I discovered is that if you look at the IDE cables that came with my selector panel here with the Trios II, those cables only have one connector on each end. Well, if I have to connect multiple devices, I've got to have these cables. They're also a little short, to be honest with you. But you see, I've got to connect two drives, right? So I'm going to have to use the cables that were already in the system because they are A, long, and B, they have two connectors on them. So since my initial setup is with these two connectors, I'm going to have to use those instead of the ones that came with the card itself. All right, so here's the card itself plugged in partially. You can see here that I've got the cable that runs to the two hard drives, and it is coming out of IDE slot number 1. And then I'm going to take these power connectors from the PSU that's in the system, and we're going to plug those into these drives here. So they're actually using power from the power supply itself. The other drive will use power coming off of the card. We'll look here in a minute. Right now, I'm going to reconnect the floppy power cable. That's kind of a pain in the butt to get to with all this stuff in here. So we've got that in there, and then I'll take the floppy cable and plug that in. By the way, if you're not familiar with how IDE cables work and floppy cables, the shortcut rule is generally red to power. So the red ribbon that runs down the side generally will be on the same side that the power is on. You can see that's how I'm connecting this up with the floppy drive. That red line is going toward the power. You see on the CD drives there on the left, that red line is on the same side as power. That's a good way to make sure that you're not plugging a cable in upside down. Now, it also turns out that IDE cables, newer ones anyway, and I say that term very loosely, but the newer ones actually had a notch. Older ones didn't have a notch. They were just flat. My guess is they put the notch in because a lot of people were installing them upside down. But anyway, there you go. So that's all of the drives that are currently hooked up, and that is the original configuration. Now that connector is going to be for this 200 gig hard drive. It's the only thing I'm going to be connecting, so I can use one of the ribbon cables that came with the unit itself. So here we have the selector card pushed down into the PCI slot. Again, that's just to hold it in place. There's really no reason for it to take up a PCI slot. That's kind of one of my pet peeves about it. But in any case, you see that we have all of the ribbon cables. They run from the motherboard into the card, out of the card to the various devices. The CD drives are by themselves on a channel. You can see there's a lot of cabling and crap in the way, so we'll have to take care of that at some point, but this bad boy is ready to boot up. Well, it's almost ready to boot up. The control panel here normally comes with some sticky stuff. You can put it on the back, but ours didn't come with that. At the other end, however, is an RJ45 connector, and that will plug into the back of the controller card. And then once that's done, boom, it is ready to go. All right, so once everything is plugged in, it actually starts to light up even when the power to the computer isn't on. Then you can see you can hit the selector. You can change through the different drives. So we've got it set for the first IDE connector, which remember has the two drives together. You see the run light there showing that it's getting some activity. So we're booting off of these two drives here, not this one back here, not that one, but these two here that were originally in the system. They are set to device number 1. So as it is booting up, we see that the master is set for number 1, and you can see the run light going to town as it is booting up from the system drive that was originally in my dad's PC when we started this whole thing. So his computer has Windows XP on it, and it is booting up very, very slowly. I had taken out some of the RAM while I was playing around with some other stuff, so it's very slow, so I'm going to have to add the memory back in. But the main thing is that it boots up here. You can see that we are booting into Windows XP on his computer. Same thing you saw in the other video where I had turned it off 10 years after he had passed away. But so we've got this booted up into XP. Now we're going to shut this down, flip over to the second drive, and try booting from drive number 2. So here we are going to push the master slave switch. Of course, the computer is off right now. Not the master slave, but the master select button. We have the second option selected. So we power this bad boy on and take a look for, well, the run light should be lit up here. So we've got a bit of a problem. Okay, let's see if we can kind of maybe troubleshoot, figure out what's going on. All right, so we've got the second one selected. I powered it off. Let's turn on the computer, and this time let's take a look at the screen so I can figure out what is happening here with this drive. Detecting primary master, which that's, oh, nope. All right, so the system itself is not detecting the hard drive. Disk boot failure, insert system disk. Yeah. No primary master, no primary slave. Okay, so basically it means this drive is either dead or not getting power or something. So, all right, let's do some troubleshooting. We'll figure out what's going on and, I don't know, jump into BIOS here. Normally, normally at this point, the master would show you what it is. So, yeah, I've definitely got, something's definitely not right here. So we'll figure out what's going on. All right, so let's turn this bad boy back on. So it turns out I tried moving the power cables back from where they were over to a different connection for the drive coming off of the board. That's still not working. So it turns out that the board itself is not putting out enough power to power the drive. So it so happens I had a splitter, so I'm just using the power that's coming directly from the power supply. Going to plug that splitter. It's going to split off onto one of the drives that was already in the computer. Look at there, Mac Store shows up right off the bat. So that was it. It was a power problem. So this drive is booting off the 200 gig with free BSD. Okay, well, there you go. All right. Oh, free NAS. Oh my gosh, or NAS, depends on how you say it, but free NAS. I forgot we were even playing around with that. That was something that I was doing with computers at work. We had a bunch of folks come in and we were all learning how to do free NAS, which is basically a network storage array, a way to use a bunch of old drives as network storage. I guess I forgot that was on here. Anyway, well, now what we want to do is change the operating system. So I'm using Bootit bare metal, and you can see that Bootit was unable to read from the hard drive, which is required to properly manage it. So basically what that's telling you is that it can't figure out a way to read it, and that's basically because it had the free BSD stuff on it. So what we need to do here is get past this, and we need to go into the configuration itself. So we will go into the maintenance portion of the program here. The first thing we need to do is jump over here to partition work. You can see that it's got an MBR, a master boot record of like 24 megs. I don't know what that's doing, but anyway, the thing here is to delete all the partitions. We now have 194 gigs. We can create a new partition, and this partition is where we're going to put the Bootit operating system. This is what's going to control booting up to multiple operating systems on the 200 gig hard drive. So the first partition that we're creating is going to be that. It's going to be this Bootit EBMRM, or EMBRM rather. We're going to tell it to format it. And then one of the things it can do is check for surface defects, but I just skipped that. I don't really care. So we have the Bootit partition created, and now we're going to reboot the computer. And now that it's been rebooted, we have the setup, and it's going to say, okay, we want to install Bootit BM, and we want to change all master boot records just to make sure that it's got the right boot for our drive. It's got the information that it needs, and we're going to go through the setup program, which basically copies the Bootit bare metal operating system off of the boot CD into that first partition that we created. And what that is going to let us do is set up the rest of the system so that we can install multiple OSs on this particular drive. So here we've got the Bootit BM set up. We have to remove the CD and hit OK to restart the computer. So we'll get to that. Start the computer over here. All right, so when it reboots, now the boot menu has nothing in it. Normally we would click boot and it would boot the first thing. We don't have anything in there, so we need to go back to partition work. We've got the partition work here. That's the 190 gigs that's left over. So we need to create a partition. Now I'm going to use multiple OSs on this. So the first one I'm going to do is DOS with Windows for Workgroups. So you have to give it a name. And again, this is naming the partition. This has multiple steps. So we name the partition DOS, Windows for Workgroups. The file system for that is going to be your regular FAT16 because that's what DOS and Windows for Workgroups or Windows 3.1.1 uses. Then the other thing is that you're going to see here that by default, it tries to create a 4 gig partition. But in order to install DOS and Windows for Workgroups, it only recognizes 2 gigs. So we need to change this to 2048 and we'll get that going. We're going to format it, and I always check the box for multi-OS just because I am going to be booting with multiple OSs. So we're going to format it. It's going to pop up. It wants to check for surface defects. I skip that part because I don't care. And now we have a 2 gig DOS Windows for Workgroups partition, and we have 188 gigs free. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually go in here and create all of your partitions ahead of time, but we're not going to do that right now. Instead, what we're going to do is jump back over to the boot menu. Remember, the boot menu was empty. So here, I need to create a menu item, and I just call it the same thing, DOS, WFW. You'll notice that the boot menu there is which partition is it selecting. Don't worry about group. It'll create one later. And basically, I'm booting off of a DOS CD, so I don't have to do anything else here. So that is in the boot menu. I hit OK. Again, you know, this is what's going to show up in the menu when the computer first boots up. So now if you hit resume, now I have something in the boot menu. I tell it to boot, and now it is going to reboot, load up the CD that's got DOS 622 on it, and then from there I can install DOS on this machine. So there you go. I just wanted to take a quick moment, show you the Trios II. I mainly wanted to show the setup of the unit itself, connecting the IDE drives using the Selector so that you can see how that works. I got into a little of the OS operation there, but we'll cover that in another video. It turns out that the folks that I bought this from, I ended up ordering 2 of them because I wanted to make sure that I had, you know, enough pieces and parts in case one of them, you know, screwed up or something. But this one worked, you know, just fine. So if you're wanting to get into some old tech and you want selectable drives, then definitely the Trios II is the way to go. So there you go. Got any questions, problems, suggestions, horror stories? Feel free to leave those down in the comment section below. And we will see you next time here on the David and Ark channel, where next time we'll actually take a look at installing various operating systems using the Boot It bare metal booter. So thank you so much for watching.